Hello and welcome to Dan Talks United, another match preview, Monday Night Football again. It's a consequence of finishing so low in the table, and obviously it's Manchester United versus Bournemouth at home, Old Trafford, 8 p.m. kickoff Monday, late night again. But like I say, the consequence of being such a big club and all eyes will be on Manchester United, and I suppose that sells that Monday night game that the Premier League, Sky Sports are wanting to sell. Anyway, let's get into things. First and foremost, just want to cover a little bit of transfer news. Don't want to dwell too much on Semenyo, although that he keeps being linked to us, but it's topical because we're playing against Bournemouth on Monday. But the main sort of transfer news, and that was coming from Ben Jacobs this week, is Tyler Adams. Yeah, silence. And it's exactly what I thought as well. A little bit underwhelming sort of link to a player for our midfield, considering what we need in our midfield, especially if Casemiro and Bruno were to leave in the summer. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's have a quick look at Tyler Adams. I'll use FootMob just to have a look at his sort of stats in a sense and how he's played for Bournemouth this season.
Right then, Tyler Adams, then let's have a quick look at him. So, USA international, height 175 centimetres, which makes him 5'8"-ish. So, for me, already, has he got that physicality? Has he got that aerial ability? Has he got that ability to boss the midfield? Definitely wouldn't be buying him on his own. You can't be replacing Casemiro. Or even Bruno, to be honest with you. So, be a squad player for me at best, but let's have a look at his stats anyway. So that's just his player traits, just a quick look at that. Touches, chances, aerial duels, that sort of thing, but we'll go into a bit more detail, a bit lower down. So just go into his stats there. So 2 goals, 1 assist, and then he's got a rating of 6.95. Let's go a bit further down. We'll skip shooting. Look at passing. Assist 1 this season. So above his expected assist by the looks of that, if you're into all that sort of stuff. Successful passes are in green, so that's not bad. Possession, because obviously you want your midfielder to have possession and help us keep possession. So is in sort of amber area for most things there. Defending, which is probably the most important thing if he's going to play that sort of 6 role. Tackles are in green, duels green. Quite surprisingly, his duels 1 percentage is 50%, so that's sort of midway. And aerial duels again is the surpriser there, so he's got a green there for 14. That is 1. However, the actual percentage is 48.3%. And then recoveries are in green, not too bad, and then his discipline seems fine. So low sort of chance of getting cautioned and red cards and what have you. So that's Tyler Adams.
Before we get kicked off into the match against Bournemouth, I just want to ask question of the day. So bear with me here, there, guys. Question of the day. So, which player that has left Manchester United in the last 5 years, who most fans wanted out, hounded out, whatever you want to call it, would you now bring back into this squad? And thinking about the gaps that we have. So gaps we've got at wing back, gaps we've got in midfield, gaps we might have up front. So this isn't about which player in the world you'd want to come into the team. This is just a hypothetical question. Which player who was left in the last 5 years would you bring back now? Now, I'll give my answer later on, but put your answers in the comments below. Right then, let's get into the show anyway. So, like I say, Manchester United, Old Trafford versus Bournemouth. Big game, I think, because we are in 6th position as it stands until the team start playing again over the weekend. And that's the sort of thing, whether it's good or bad, that we sort of wait around to see all the scores and then play our game, or do we want to play in and amongst everybody else? Last weekend, you could say that we've taken advantage of some drop points from some of the teams around us. So Chelsea dropped points, for example. But trying to think if Liverpool dropped points as well. So just for those teams that are around us, it's good if they drop points, then we can capitalise on that, because it's very rare that we capitalise on our rivals or the teams around us dropping points. So if we can do that again, and I think we've got Crystal Palace in about 4th place. So if they were to drop some points against City, let's say, probably all 3 points is probably what we need them to drop, really. We could be in for either a 5th or 4th position at the end on Monday night. But let's see, because obviously Bournemouth are a tricky side. Appreciate that they've not got the best form recently. So whilst I'm coming on to that, I'm just going to have a quick look at our last 5 games and Bournemouth's last 5 games. Right, then we'll start with us first. We're down the left-hand side. So Tottenham, so when we played Spurs at their place, we drew with them 2-2. Still feel that we should have won that game, really. Then at home to Everton, 10 men, Everton beat us 1-0. And then we went to Selhurst Park and we won 2-1. So a decent performance in that second half. And then back at home, 1-1 with West Ham. Again, should have won that game and we let it slip towards the end. And then more recently, 4-1 against Wolves. So go across the right-hand side there and let's have a look at Bournemouth's last 5 games. So against Villa, they lost 4-0. At home, 2-2 with West Ham. Sunderland, who have got a really good home form at the moment, they lost 3-2 to Sunderland. So it looks like a bit of a tight game there. Back at home against Everton, they lost 1-0. And then 0-0 at home to Chelsea. So that sort of wraps up the sort of last 5 games. Looking at that, it looks like we are in with a chance in regards to our form against theirs. And strangely, it looks like we've got similar sort of results here and there. So where we lost 1-0 to Everton, so did they. And where we drew with West Ham, so did they. However, we have more wins on the board in the last 5 games. And it doesn't look like they're travelling that well either, by the looks of those scores and results. So it would give you a false sort of hope that we, or I'm saying false hope, that we could beat Bournemouth. It probably is a good time to play them, potentially. However, you can't underestimate Bournemouth or underestimate how we might play, because you never know which Manchester United are going to turn up. Forest Gump FC. Right then, let's talk team news in a sense, or injury news, or which players are going to be fit. Also, let's touch on the press conference. So first of all, I'll go on with the press conference. Don't know if you've seen it, but it was very strange in regards to what Amorim was saying. He was sort of making out that he wasn't sure if he's going to have Mbeumo, Ahmad and Mazraoui for the game against Bournemouth on Monday, which was very strange because obviously press conference is on a Friday. I believe they trained, because I think he did mention that they trained as well. So I assume he meant they trained Friday morning. And to say with sort of a couple of days to go, that is not sure if they're going to be available because they may be flying off for AFCON, I find that's a bit strange. So is he playing a few mind games against Bournemouth to keep them second guessing? Is it a bit of a ploy so that they have to think about different ways to set up against us and not knowing exactly how we're going to set up? I'm not sure, but I just find it strange, although it is Manchester United, I do find it strange that we haven't got our shit together at this stage to know whether they're going or not. And I find that very odd. Anyway, in regards to confirmations of fitness and what have you, he was asked about De Ligt. I think he confirmed that De Ligt is still out and still needing some treatment. Maguire, Slabhead is still out. Sesko was a bit of a weird one because I think Amorim was sort of blaming translation here and language barrier, but he said the word poison. So I I don't think there's anything sinister going on where there's been some sort of deliberate poisoning of players, but I think he may mean food poisoning. So I don't know whether he's going to be available for the match on Monday. However, I would expect that he would start on the bench anyway, because I think with Amorim, he normally, so when a player's coming back after injury anyway, he doesn't just chuck them in, unless it was Bruno, obviously. I think he'd do that. But I think he would have started on the bench anyway. So in terms of that sort of setup, then we can sort of loosely touch on tactical setup. It's going to be 3-4-3 for us anyway. And then I would expect for Bournemouth it will be that sort of 4-3-3 or 4-3-2-1 sort of setup. For us, I suppose we're going to sort of probably feel out what Bournemouth are going to do, what their game plan is, how they set up, how they come at us. We have more recently started again to sort of, play out from the back to a certain extent. Still a lot of, what call it, route one, but direct play still happening. If he goes with the similar lineup, which we'll come on to that, I'd expect that there's pressing capabilities there anyway, because obviously Mbeumo can press and Mount can press and Cunha. So I would expect some sort of high press. And it's just whether we're just going to sit and wait and see what they do. Obviously, what's going to suit us is if Bournemouth do their normal approach of coming at teams, attacking, high line, that sort of thing. And I think if that happens, it gives us that opportunity to get in behind them. Because I think we are still struggling to break teams down. So if a team does a mid to low block, I think we're still struggling to work out solutions of how to beat that system. And we're often resorting to, like I say, direct play, set pieces, or extra long throws from Dalot. So in terms of battles then, midfield, I would expect Casemiro and Bruno to be in that midfield, and they would then come up against possibly Tavernier and Scott. So I think Tavernier is more on that, probably a similar setup to us in a sense, with a two there, because you've got Casemiro that I would obviously expect to sit, and I think Scott would sit, and then Tavernier and Bruno would have that sort of license of that sort of roaming eight to go forward. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. And then for the wings, we'll touch on Ahmad and Semenyo. So obviously, not so sure how well Ahmad does against a tricky winger, which I believe Semenyo is. A really good player for Bournemouth, as I was saying earlier, linked to us, but I'm not so sure that he'll be coming to Manchester United, because I just can't see him wanting to be a wing-back, because I think that's the only real position for him. So I think we're heavily stacked in the 10 position already. And he likes to go wide for me and then cut in. So I'm just not so sure that it's a player that would A, fit in because of players we already have, and then B, would want to come because if he did, he'd be going into a position that I'm not so sure he'd want to play in. So other sort of player to watch out for Bournemouth is Jimenez, and I suppose he'd be coming up against Dalot if Dalot was to play on the left hand side. And then I can't discount Patrick Kluivert's son, Justin Kluivert. I can't discount him. I think when we've played Bournemouth in the past, he's always been a pretty good player, or a nuisance anyway to us. So yeah, they're two further players that I think we need to watch out for. So let's go into the predicted lineups, and I will use FootMob again to have a look at that. So what I like about this is that it's showing here on the screen the setup that both teams used in their last games. So for Manchester United, it's the setup against Wolves, and for Bournemouth, it's the setup against Chelsea. So the reason I'm using this is because I feel that we're pretty much going to go with the same squad as we did against Wolves. Can't speak for Bournemouth because I haven't watched them this season, really. So let's just concentrate on Manchester United. So we'll go through it. Le Mans, there is no argument there. He's our number one. I'm not wanting him to make mistakes, but if he did make a few mistakes, I still would say he's number one because he's shown there's certain abilities he's shown where Bayender for me doesn't come back into the side unless Le Mans was injured. Right hand side there, then, if he's around, is Mazraoui as the right centre back. I think I'd leave him there. Heaven, this is where it's debatable in the centre here because we don't have De Ligt and we don't have Maguire, who obviously would get in ahead of Heaven if they were fit. I think he played all right against Wolves, Heaven, so I'd probably be inclined to stick with him there. Shaw, left centre back, I think I'd stick with him. Ahmad back on the other side. So this is where our right side is going to be impact, as you can see there, guys. That's three key players, a bit of a triangle there of players that will be going to AFCON. I would be playing Ahmad there. And then back over the other side to Dalot. Normally, I would say not to play him there because I just don't like him on the left-hand side. Debatable whether I like him on the right-hand side at the moment, but he has shown decent displays in the last couple of games, so I would be inclined again to stick with him there. Then obviously the middle two there are going to stay the same, Casemiro and Bruno. And then Mount had a really good game against Wolves. Really liked what he did. I think we need his energy, his tenacity, his sort of all action and his pressing abilities. So I would stick with the left 10 for Mount. And then back over the other side to Mbeumo in the right 10. Hopefully he hasn't gone to AFCON by Monday. I would be starting Mbeumo in the right 10. And then finally, Cunha. Again, is there anybody else to go in there? Possibly Xerxes, but I would go with Cunha again. Still feel that his performances haven't been quite where I'd expect them to be or where I'd like them to be. But I'm still sort of hoping and rooting for him to hit some form. And as I said before, he got that first goal and I thought he was going to kick on, but he hasn't quite done that. Then he got an injury as well, which will have derailed some of his progress. But I think he just needs to probably turn down how much he's trying. Now, that sounds weird, but I think he's over trying, which is impacting his performances at times. So quickly, just to touch on Bournemouth, and again, I don't know how much of this side is going to be the same on Monday night. So they've got Evan Nielsen up front. I have seen him play up front a few times for Bournemouth, so there's every chance he may start. I would expect Semenyo to start unless he's injured, so he'll be starting. Cliver in that sort of pocket, that sort of number 10 position. Not sure, but he may start as well. Jimenez on that other side that I've mentioned. Tavernier and Scott in the middle. I think that's pretty much going to happen. And then that back line looks familiar, so I suspect that they would start. So just before coming off FootMob, I just wanted to have a quick look actually at these insights because I think they're quite interesting. So just to go through it then really quickly, Manchester United haven't kept a clean sheet in 8 games. So that is a worry for me. That is an issue, and I think we need to definitely work on that. I'm not sure that's going to change in this game, but we definitely need to be looking at that, and we are shipping goals. Bruno Fernandes, as we know, scored twice and got an assist in that last game. And he ranks second in the Premier League for big chances created, even from that deeper position. So, again, I know a few of us, including myself, have moaned about the position that Bruno's playing in. And I think it does hamper him a bit. It does take away from his overall game and what he is strong at, which is the attacking side of the game. However, he's still getting the numbers from a deep position. And I know he's indisciplined. Is that the word? Or ill-disciplined, but he's getting the numbers from midfield, from a deeper position. So, I don't know. Is it working? Is it not working? what he's definitely doing is not stopping him from creating chances, is what we do know. And third most goal involvements in the Premier League since his debut in 2020. So let's go on to the Cherries then, Bournemouth. The Cherries won their last 2 Premier League visits at Old Trafford, 3-0. So this is why we can't underestimate Bournemouth. But they are winless in 6 Premier League matches, and it's their worst run under Areola. And they've just scored 4 goals in their last 5 matches. So what that's pretty much saying is that obviously they've not got a good run recently, and they're not really scoring either. So it's just debatable again. You just never know with this league. You don't know with some of these teams as well. And obviously you've got Bournemouth that are probably not in a good place, but at the same time, in their heads, they've come to Old Trafford or at their place and they've got a good result. So they've got that to hold on to. So you just never know. Right, the big one, score prediction. Right, so difficult again, because thinking about obviously beating Wolves 4-1, which I'm not going to read too much into that, because I'm not going to take the win away from us, obviously, but it was a really poor Wolves side. We've beat Crystal Palace away, good, 2-1. Bournemouth are not in the greatest form, so it's very difficult, but I still feel that there is that Bournemouth potentially having that confidence that they've had a good result against us, both home and away for them. So, and obviously because the feeling's been there and I can't shirk it, happy to be wrong, by the way, in this prediction, but I'm going to go with 1-1. Now, I would take a 2-1 or 3-1 or anything else, but 1-1 is what I'm thinking. So that's my prediction. So again, guys, put your predictions in the comments. What do you think the scoreline's going to be? Do you think we're going to beat them comfortably because of their recent form? Or do you feel that we might be quite nervous at Old Trafford or unsure what Bournemouth are going to bring to the table? But that's the prediction, right? So before we go, as I said at the start of the show, was the question about player that's left in the last 5 years that we potentially hounded out, but we'd bring back if we could. So my answer is, and it may be a shock, and it is 1/2 of McFred. Which half is it? Fred. Now, this might shock you, but bear with me. A lot of it's down to the fact that we are obviously unhappy with the midfield at times and the fact that it gets overrun, and there's times where teams play through us and there's a lot of gaps. And just feel Fred on his day, lots of energy, tenacity, interceptions, really good, high level at intercepting the ball, can cut off passing lanes. I think he listens to his coach and pretty much does as a coach says. Don't get me wrong, his abilities are limited in certain areas, but it's more about the defensive side of things. And he had a bit of speed as well, and he was strong for his size. So that is who I would bring back. And again, putting this into context, this isn't me saying Fred over Baleba or Fred over Anderson or Fred over Wharton. This is hypothetical question, a bit of fun. Which player would I bring back who's left in the last 5 years who we wanted to get rid of at the time? And this obviously would include players from the bomb squad, for example. There's McTominay that I've already mentioned, and a few other players. So I'm going with Fred, bit of fun, but that's who I would bring back to try and I wouldn't say 100% resolve our midfield issues, but play alongside Casemiro and be that sort of dog's body in a sense who can run around Casemiro and let Casemiro just stay disciplined and set in his number 6 position. And also, don't forget, Fred has some use in attacking phase as well. He's scored a few goals, he's come up with assists, he's popped up in and around that sort of 10 position, because that's the position he used to play at Shakhtar Donetsk. So he's used to that, and that's why Mourinho brought him in to play in that sort of 10 area. So there we have it. That's my sell on Fred. Probably haven't convinced you, but a bit of fun. Fred will be the answer for me. So there'll be more questions like that in future videos. So to bring the show to an end now, again, it's ourselves versus Bournemouth. How we're going to fare, guys. We need to get a win on the board. We need that sort of momentum and that run to, we need to keep that run going. It's not just for that guy's hair. We just need to keep that run going because we've got AFCON coming up. We're going to lose at least 2 key players. We could say 3 with Mazraoui, but definitely in Ahmad and Mbeumo. We're going to lose them to AFCON, and it's going to be tricky period to play without them. I think we've got Villa in that as well, and Newcastle. So they're 2 tricky teams to try and get some points from without our key players. So we do need to get those points on the board and sort of cement that sort of 6th, 5th, 4th position if we can. So as always, thank you for watching Dan Talks United. Please like, please share, please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.